The Galactic Tribunal had stood for 12 million years, its crystalline spires reaching toward the void like accusatory fingers. Within its halls, the eldest civilizations of the galaxy dispensed justice with the cold precision of mathematics. The architects had built it, the preservers maintained it, the adjudicators ruled from it, and now, for the first time in its ancient history, they had invited witnesses. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the observation gallery, her uniform crisp despite the 3-week journey through hyperspace. Around her, representatives from 24 species maintained respectful silence. The Zephyrians with their gossamer wings, the stone-skinned megaloids, the photosynthetic Verdani whose leaves rustled with nervous energy, all witnesses, all here to observe the trial of the century. Below them, in the vast amphitheater carved from a single asteroid, the accused floated in a containment field. The Devourers, a species that had consumed 17 worlds before the Tribunal's forces had finally cornered them. Their chitinous forms writhed with predatory hunger even in captivity, mandibles clicking in what might have been laughter or threats. The charges are genocide, ecological devastation, and crimes against sentience, announced High Adjudicator, Nexus Prime, its voice echoing from crystalline formations throughout the chamber. The evidence is conclusive, the verdict is predetermined. Sarah frowned. In the briefing, Admiral Reeves had been clear. You're there to watch and learn, Commander. The Tribunal invited us as a gesture of respect for our recent membership in the Galactic Council. Don't speak unless spoken to. But something felt wrong. The Devourer Queen, largest of the accused, raised her massive head. We demand trial by combat, she hissed, her words translated by the tribunal systems. Ancient law grants us this right. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Nexus Prime's crystalline form flickered, the equivalent of surprise. Trial by combat has not been invoked in 4 million years. It is obsolete. But not forbidden, the Queen insisted. Choose your champion, Tribunal. We will choose ours. Sarah watched as the ancient beings conferred among themselves, their communication taking place in spectrums of light invisible to most species. Finally, Nexus Prime spoke again. Very well. The Tribunal chooses Warden Kael'thox of the Eternal Guard. The chamber's floor split open and a platform rose bearing a creature that made Sarah's breath catch. Kael'thox stood 12 feet tall, its hide gleaming like polished obsidian. Weapons grew from its very body. Razor-sharp claws, venomous spines, limbs that could crush steel. It was beautiful in the way that perfect predators were beautiful. The Devourer Queen studied the witnesses in the gallery with compound eyes like black mirrors. Her gaze lingered on each species before finally settling on the humans. We choose the small ones, she declared. The silence that followed was absolute. Nexus Prime's form blazed brighter. Impossible. Humans are witnesses, not participants. They lack the physical capability. The law says nothing about physical capability, the Queen interrupted. Only that we may choose any representative of those present. We choose her. A clawed appendage pointed directly at Sarah. Sarah felt every eye in the chamber turn toward her. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but her training kicked in. She stood straighter, meeting the Queen's alien gaze without flinching. Commander Chen, Nexus Prime's voice carried a note of what might have been concern. You are not obligated to accept. No one would think less. I accept, Sarah said, cutting off the ancient being mid-sentence. She heard gasps from the gallery, behind her. The Verdani's leaves rustled like a windstorm. Sarah, no, whispered Ambassador Torres, the senior human diplomat. You can't possibly. But Sarah was already walking toward the chamber floor, her mind racing. The Devourers weren't stupid. They'd studied every species in the gallery and chosen the one they thought would be easiest to defeat. They'd looked at humanity and seen weakness. They were about to learn otherwise. The platform lowered her into the arena. Kael'thox turned toward her, and she saw something unexpected in its ancient eyes. Pity. It didn't want to kill her. To beings like the Eternal Guard, there was no honor in crushing something so small. "I will make it quick, little one," Kael'thas rumbled, its voice like grinding stone. Sarah smiled, and there was something in that expression that made the mighty warrior pause. "Kael'thas," she said, loud enough for her voice to carry throughout the chamber. "With respect, you're not my opponent." She turned toward the Devourer Queen, still floating in her containment field. "The trial by combat isn't about me fighting your champion," she continued, her voice growing stronger. "It's about proving whether justice or law matters more." The Queen's mandibles clicked rapidly. "What are you talking about, small one?" "You invoked an ancient law to avoid justice," Sarah said, beginning to pace the arena floor. "You're betting that the tribunal will follow their rules even when those rules protect monsters. You're counting on their rigid adherence to procedure." She stopped and looked up at Nexus Prime. "But here's what you didn't account for. Humans don't just follow rules. We change them when they're wrong." The crystalline being's form pulsed. "The law is absolute. The law is a tool," Sarah interrupted. "And when a tool doesn't work, you get a better one." She turned back to the Queen. "You've committed genocide. You've destroyed entire ecosystems. You've murdered billions. And you think an ancient loophole will save you?" The Queen's eyes narrowed. The law is whatever we decide it is," Sarah said firmly. "That's the difference between humans and everyone else in this galaxy. You see rules as chains. We see them as starting points." She looked around the arena, making eye contact with as many beings as possible. "Every species here has been shaped by this tribunal's laws. You've let them define justice for you for millions of years. But justice isn't about following rules. It's about doing what's right." Sarah pulled out her sidearm. Standard human military issue, nothing special by galactic standards. But in the sudden silence of the chamber, it might as well have been a supernova. "I hereby declare this trial by combat invalid," she announced. "The Devourers are guilty of genocide. The sentence is death. As the human representative, I'm carrying it out." The containment field around the Devourers wasn't designed to stop energy weapons fired from inside the arena. Sarah's shots found their mark with the precision her species was known for. The Queen fell first, then her warriors, their chitinous armor no match for human determination. When the last Devourer stopped twitching, Sarah holstered her weapon and looked up at the stunned gallery. "Sometimes," she said quietly, "being a witness means deciding what you've witnessed is wrong." The tribunal convened for 7 days. When they emerged, they announced the creation of new protocols. Ancient laws could still be invoked, but they could also be overruled when they conflicted with justice. They called it the Human Amendment. Sarah returned to Earth a hero, but she preferred to think of herself as something else, a reminder that sometimes the best way to honor the law is to break it. After all, that's what humans did best.